I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. Today we're going to do a 2007 album. This is a request from one of our biggest fans and somebody who, we've gotten a lot of great feedback for and are thankful to have in the VIMTV family. Our friend Joel requested Between the Buried and Me's 2007 Colors. This is a pretty big deal in the metal world. And this is prog metal. I mean, I don't know how else you would describe it.
I think
a little thrashy.
The band, what was it? I read the band described this as adult contemporary progressive death metal.
I read that, and that's spot on. That is spot on. All right, Tom, but what'd you think? I know that Tom, I know you love this album.
I loved this album, Joel. I will say, I'll come out and say first off, so that you can be happy with yourself. You got me completely sold on this album. I really did like this. You were completely right. And I'll get more into why here. I'll start off with just kind of about the band themselves. They're a quintet, 5 guys. They're pretty young still. I think they're in their upper 20s, lower 30s on average, and they've been around since like 2000 or so. So
pretty young
they started young, which is impressive considering. I'll just come out and say these are some of, not even really some of, probably the most impressive instrumentals I've ever heard on anything.
Even in metal. Even in metal.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I agree.
From every instrument. Because the thing is, with a lot of death metal out there, and I think that this is the biggest thing that separates prog metal from like death metal or black metal, for me at least, is the bass playing. The bass playing is so much more melodic rather than just trying to beef up the sound. They're moving around a lot more on the higher notes and actually providing some melody rather than just some oomph to match the kick drum and the guitar riffing. And so the bass, absolutely incredible. The drums, I mean, you'd never hear someone play drums like this except for like maybe Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater, which actually I read that this was his favorite album of the year. Like Portnoy was like, this is the best album.
I'm not surprised because I honestly thought it sounded like him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the guitar work, of course, but what really sets this apart still is all the genre hopping that they do. You have these random like folk interludes or like polka interludes, and
even
some
classical.
classical, some jazz, some jazz guitar solo work,
and it goes with the album title, Colors.
Yeah, Colors.
It makes it colorful.
And it adds a lot. But I've really liked this band more and more as I did more research about them, because I love that their image is not a bunch of guys that look like they're in a biker gang that want to beat you up with long black hair and stuff. Almost every picture of them that I found, they're just 5 scrawny white guys just being exactly that, scrawny white guys, and they're like goofing around and having fun. And what I love about that is that metal focuses way too much on this badass image when really it should always be about the music. And if you are trying to add too many things in there that make it not about the music, you are completely defeating the purpose. And I love that these guys do that because they're like, who cares? It's all about the music. Who cares what we act like, what we look like? Because when we get on stage or in the studio and record this music, it is badass to the nth degree, and there's no way you can get around that regardless of what they look like. And I think that's great. Also, their influence is just so varied. They have a huge King Crimson influence I got from a lot of this. They have a cover album that I really want to check out. They do covers by like Counting Crows, which is where they get their band name from, a Counting Crows song. Metallica. There's some guitar work near the end of this album, some riffs that sound a lot like Call of Cthulhu from Metallica's Ride the Lightning. You get those kind of influences, also some, Pantera, stuff like that. But just the musicianship is incredible. There's a live DVD of them playing this album straight through, apparently flawlessly, which just blows my mind. I really want to see that.
Yeah, I think we actually have some clips posted.
Really? Oh, I'm going to have to watch those or just get the DVD.
Get the DVD.
But this is, this is really great. This is really great stuff all over the place. Talk about Justin Bieber song structures, right? I'm just kidding. There's literally probably not even a single thing that's repeated here, ever.
It's totally proud.
Just all over the place, but as you listen to it more, it's got this allure that makes you want to keep listening to it. I really enjoyed it. now the biggest obstacle for anyone is going to be the vocals.
Absolutely.
And in a second here, I'm going to hand it over to Jake to talk about that, because the thing is, I really think that if you like heavy music at all, the only reason you would not fall in love with this album is because of the vocals, because a majority of them is that really just dooming, just kind of, you know, going on a lot. And I'll let you talk about that now.
Well, and to me, that was, I listened to this the first time, and Joel, I'll speak, you know, specifically to you, because you called me out on it, that you said, you know, you think that this is a great metal album, but I probably wouldn't like the vocals. And at first, you were definitely right. But as time went on, the more I listened to this album, I started adjusting to the vocals less and less. And really what it was is I just started loving the instrumentals, and the songwriting is just incredible on this album. And they're just physical abuse to the typical song structure is just fantastic, and that makes a guy like me quite proud. But you know, the vocals, it is an obstacle when all you hear is come on. I mean, come on, man, really?
I do think that was my biggest complaint, is that I think the ratio is just a little off.
Now, being the analytical piece of shit that I am, I went nuts on this, and I was like, well, what would I do differently? And if you analyze this music, if you listen to it, you gotta understand, these guys are rocking out at 120%, and 220%. Shit. But so there is this hardcore element, and while we are throwing all these progressive and thrash words around, this is at its core metal. So there is this need to have this hardcore element to it. And I think that how they're trying to apply that is by having these really intense, just dark, screaming vocals, and that's cool. And overall on the album, I actually think that it works quite well. There are just select spots within these songs, and by the way, 8 tracks that symbolize the colors of the rainbow, and these things are not like normal tracks. They're more like movements in classical work. And throughout these movements, I find that at certain times, especially in the more thrashy times, believe it or not, is where I think a lot of the dark screaming vocals kind of falls flat, and it's just at times, and in fact, the more I listen to this, the less that bothers me, and so maybe, you know, I'm only on, you know, like 4 or 5 listens into this, and I'm starting to adjust, and, you know, maybe, you know, give me 10 more listens, and I'll be up to the point where I love this, you know, and I still do really like this album. Now I think that conflicts, you know, what would you do? How would you do it differently? Well, I think that in certain parts it would be better if they just laid off the vocals. Maybe they relied on it just a bit too much for my taste. I wish they would have allowed some of these, you know, if you think of these movements as kind of like a flower, I wish they would have allowed it to open up more and really flesh out some of the really, you know, visceral metal parts, or some of the really sweeping and moving progressive parts. I feel like some of that got muddled by the vocals at times, but other times was complemented. So it was kind of this, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. I don't know. But other than that, I mean, you can't deny just how incredible some of the songwriting and instrumentality and musicianship of this album is. It's mind-blowing. It is. And these guys, you know, you gotta clap hands to them. This is one of the best metal records you will listen to.
And it is an album listen. It is an experience.
Absolutely.
Everything flows so well, and if you listen to any just bits and pieces out of context, it's not going to seem as good. I didn't like it as much at first because I was only able to listen to the first few songs, where I feel like is where a lot of the really hardcore screaming is.
Yeah, and that's just setting it up for the rest of the album.
Exactly. And so I was kind of like, you know, but really you have to listen to the whole thing, because that's the way it sets you up to be able to take all that in, because there are spots where they give you a break and aren't just completely screaming in your face.
Yeah. My favorite tracks, Tom, was the second Foamborn track, track 2, The Decade of Statues, and then the last 2 tracks, track 7, Viridian, another Pokemon reference. It's his bass solo, and it works so beautifully because it's right after a big explosion in the sound, and prequel to the sequel, which is an awesome track. But it works so well, working into the monumentally awesome closer, White Walls.
I'm gonna go track 5, Ants of the Sky, track 6, prequel to the sequel, and track 8, White Walls. White Walls is just incredible.
Tom, you know, we talked about the scores ahead of time a little bit, and I think I'm going to even go a little higher. I'm going to go 80. This is an awesome album.
For a metal album for this guy. I'm going to go 86.
Yeah.
This is really good. I'm going to keep coming back to this.
Thank you, Joel, for the request.
Yes, thanks for making us listen to this, because I might not have. So
leave us a comment. but listen to this album. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
That concludes our night. We are VIMTV, Movie Music Critique Forward.